The Unite the Right rally was a dark moment in American history, a day that would be remembered for its violence and hatred. On August 12, 2017, white supremacists, neo-Nazis and other hate groups descended upon Charlottesville, Virginia, turning the city into a flashpoint of racial and ideological conflict. They came to protest the removal of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, a figure who has long been a symbol of the Confederacy and its defense of slavery. The statue had become a symbol of the city's complex relationship with its Confederate past, representing a painful history that many believe should be confronted and removed. But for the rally attendees, it was a battleground for their ideology of hate, a place to assert their beliefs in white supremacy and racial purity. The rally was organized by Jason Kessler, a known white nationalist who had a history of promoting divisive and inflammatory rhetoric. He claimed that the event was about preserving Southern heritage, but the true intentions were far more sinister. However, the rally's true nature was evident in the hateful symbols and rhetoric on display, with swastikas and Confederate flags prominently featured. Confederate flags flew alongside Nazi swastikas, a chilling reminder of the ideologies these groups espoused. Participants chanted racist and anti-Semitic slogans, their voices filled with anger and hatred. The atmosphere was one of anger, fear and intimidation as protesters clashed with counter-protesters and police struggled to maintain order. The Unite the Right rally was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger pattern of rising white supremacist activity across the United States. It was part of a larger surge in white supremacist activity in the United States, a surge that had been building for years. This surge was fueled by a number of factors, including the election of Donald Trump, who had made appeals to white grievance politics during his campaign, emboldening these groups. Trump's rhetoric, along with the rise of online platforms that allowed hate groups to organize and spread their message, created a climate in which white supremacy felt emboldened and more visible. The rally in Charlottesville was a stark reminder of the dangers of hate and intolerance, a wake-up call to the nation. It showed that the ideology of white supremacy is alive and well in the United States and that it poses a serious threat to the fabric of our society. And it raised urgent questions about how to combat this dangerous and growing threat, prompting communities and leaders to take action against hate. The seeds of the violence that would unfold in Charlottesville on August 12th were sown weeks earlier. On July 8th, a smaller group of Ku Klux Klan members held a rally in the city. They too were protesting the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue. The rally was a chilling preview of what was to come. The KKK rally was met with counter-protests from local residents and activists. The two groups clashed, and the police struggled to maintain order. The violence was a sign of the escalating tensions in Charlottesville. It also foreshadowed the much larger and more violent gathering that would take place just a few weeks later. The July 8th rally was a wake-up call for Charlottesville. It showed that the city was becoming a target for white supremacists and other hate groups. It also exposed the deep divisions within the community over issues of race, history, and identity. The city would have little time to heal before the much larger and more consequential Unite the Right rally arrived. August 12th, 2017 dawned like any other summer day in Charlottesville. The sun rose over the picturesque town, casting a warm glow on the historic buildings and quiet streets. But the idyllic facade was shattered by midday as the streets began to fill with an unsettling energy. As the sun beat down, hundreds of white nationalists marched through the University of Virginia campus, their chants of "Jews will not replace us" echoing through the grounds, a stark contrast to the usual academic serenity. They carried torches, a chilling reminder of the KKK's reign of terror, illuminating the night with a sinister glow. This was just the beginning of a day that would forever stain the city's history. The tension in the air was palpable, as if the town itself was holding its breath. The situation escalated rapidly as the white nationalists converged with counter-protesters in downtown Charlottesville, each side fueled by a fervent passion for their cause. The air crackled with tension, punctuated by angry shouts and the occasional explosion of violence. The clashes were intense, with neither side willing to back down. The police, seemingly unprepared for the scale of the unrest, struggled to maintain control. Their efforts were hampered by the sheer number of people and the intensity of the confrontations. Then, the unthinkable happened, a moment that would be seared into the collective memory of the nation. A young man named James Alex Fields Jr., a known white supremacist who had traveled from Ohio to attend the rally, drove his car into a crowd of counter-protesters with malicious intent. The impact sent bodies flying, leaving a scene of carnage in its wake. Screams filled the air as people scrambled to help the injured. Heather Heyer, a 32-year-old paralegal and social activist, was killed. Her death became a symbol of the fight against hate and bigotry. 19 others were injured, some critically. The emergency responders worked tirelessly to tend to the wounded amidst the chaos. The car attack marked a terrifying escalation of the violence, transforming the rally from a disturbing display of hate into a scene of domestic terrorism. It transformed the rally from a disturbing display of hate into a scene of domestic terrorism, leaving the community in shock and mourning. The day ended with 3 dead, including 2 state troopers who died in a helicopter crash while monitoring the events. Their loss added another layer of tragedy to an already devastating day. The nation watched in horror, struggling to comprehend the hatred and violence that had unfolded in Charlottesville. The events of that day served as a stark reminder of the deep divisions and the capacity for violence that still exist in our society. In the aftermath of the tragedy, all eyes turned to the White House looking for leadership and a clear condemnation of the hate that had gripped Charlottesville. The nation was in turmoil, and a strong unifying message was desperately needed to heal the wounds and bridge the growing divide. However, what they got instead were words that would further inflame the nation and solidify President Trump's legacy as a divider. His response was not what many had hoped for. Instead, it added fuel to an already raging fire. On August 15th, during a press conference at Trump Tower in New York City, President Trump made a statement that sent shockwaves through the nation. The press conference was highly anticipated, with many expecting a strong denunciation of the hate groups involved. Instead of unequivocally condemning the white supremacists and neo-Nazis, he said there were very fine people on both sides of the conflict. This statement was seen as a failure to take a firm stand against hate and bigotry. He went on to draw a moral equivalence between the hate groups and those who had turned out to oppose them. This false equivalence was deeply troubling to many who saw it as a dangerous normalization of extremist ideologies. You had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent, Trump said. His words seemed to suggest that the violence from both sides was equally condemnable, ignoring the context of the hate-driven rally. Nobody wants to say that, but I'll say it right now. His defiant tone and refusal to unequivocally denounce the white supremacists left many feeling disillusioned and betrayed. His words were met with immediate and widespread condemnation. Across the political spectrum, leaders and citizens alike expressed their outrage and disappointment. Critics accused him of normalizing white supremacy and emboldening hate groups. They argued that his failure to clearly denounce the hate groups gave them a sense of legitimacy and power. The very fine people on both sides remark would become a defining moment of Trump's presidency. It was a moment that many would point to as emblematic of his approach to issues of race and division. It crystallized his reluctance to condemn white supremacy and his tendency to inflame racial tensions. This moment would be remembered as a significant and controversial part of his legacy. The words would continue to haunt him throughout his presidency and beyond. They would serve as a stark reminder of a deeply divisive period in American history. As the events unfolded, the nation watched with bated breath. Communities across the country began to rally together, showing a spirit of unity and resilience. In small towns and big cities alike, people came forward to lend a hand, offer support, and share their stories. It was a time of collective action and empathy, as everyone sought to contribute in whatever way they could. Leaders from various sectors stepped up, providing guidance and resources to help navigate the challenges ahead. The response was not just from the government or organizations, but from individuals who felt a call to action. This wave of solidarity and compassion highlighted the strength and resolve of the nation during these trying times. In August 2017, the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, became a flashpoint. The event, ostensibly organized to protest the removal of a Confederate statue, quickly devolved into violent clashes. This tragic day saw the death of Heather Heyer, a young woman who stood against hate. The rally sparked a national conversation about the persistence of white supremacy and the symbols that perpetuate it. The aftermath of Charlottesville forced communities across the country to confront their own histories and the legacies of division they carry. The history of division in America is long and complex. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement, the struggle for equality has been ongoing. Monuments and symbols from these eras serve as reminders of the country's fractured past. They are often points of contention, representing different things to different people. For some, they are tributes to heritage. For others, painful reminders of oppression. The debate over these symbols is not just about history, but about the values we choose to uphold today. Accountability is crucial in the fight against hate. Legal and social consequences for hate crimes and extremist actions send a clear message that such behavior will not be tolerated. Organizations and individuals who propagate hate must face the repercussions of their actions. This includes both immediate legal consequences and long-term societal rejection. Holding hate accountable requires vigilance and a collective commitment to justice and equality. Amidst the darkness, there are always those who stand up for what is right. These symbols of courage inspire others to act. From civil rights leaders to everyday citizens, their bravery in the face of adversity shines a light on the path forward. Their actions remind us that change is possible, and that each of us has a role to play in building a more just and inclusive society. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Through their example, we are encouraged to confront our own fears and take a stand for what is right.